Did God actually say, "You shall not eat of any tree in the garden"? In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the world was in its infancy, a paradise unfolding under the watchful eye of the Almighty. Here, nestled in the heart of creation, lay the exquisite Garden of Eden, a realm where nature sang praises to its Creator. Every tree shimmered with luscious fruit, their branches bowing low as if in reverence. Adam and Eve, the very expressions of God's delight, wandered freely through this sacred haven, basking in the soft rustle of leaves that echoed the whispers of divine intimacy. God's presence was palpable, their fellowship an unbroken communion. Day by day he walked among them, sharing in the brilliance of their existence and the joys of his handiwork. The sun cast its golden rays upon them, illuminating their skin and their spirit. All was well in this bounteous garden, until a serpent, shrewder than any beast, slithered through the underbrush with a voice both smooth and cunning. Did God actually say, "You shall not eat of any tree in the garden"? The serpent posed, its eyes gleaming with intrigue. Eve paused, surprised by its insinuation. She reflected on the command of her Creator and began to articulate the sacred truths woven into the fabric of her existence. "Of the trees we may eat freely," she replied, "but of the tree in the midst of the garden, God has said, 'You shall not eat it or even touch it, lest you die.'" 7 sacred secrets unfolded from her lips, as though each revelation were a drop of honey, sweet and profound. First, she spoke of the beauty of provision, the garden overflowing with abundance. Then came the freedom to partake in all but one, a declaration bound with divine intent. The significance of choice was laid bare, illuminating the depth of their relationship with God. Yet the reality of consequences, tethered to disobedience, hovered ominously in the air. Eve ventured further, sharing the promise of life entwined with obedience, a life untouched by death's shadow. She revealed the desire for knowledge that, while alluring, could lead them astray from divine purpose. Lastly, she articulated the unfathomable love that God lavished upon them, a compassionate heart behind every command meant to protect and guide. But the serpent's persuasive words twisted around her mind like creeping vines. The allure for wisdom beckoned her, igniting a fiery curiosity within. She beheld the fruit. It was good for food, a delight to the eyes, and desired to make one wise. In that moment of vulnerability, Eve reached for the forbidden fruit and shared it with Adam. The stillness of creation shattered in that tragic instant. As the weight of their choice manifested, fear and shame seeped into their hearts, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. The sacred harmony of Eden was broken, leading to their expulsion from paradise, a bitter reality sealing their fate.
Adão e Eve vanderam para o édido familiar, revisitando memórias afitoantes, spentas em comunhão com seu Criador. Deles espocaram do fruto que havia trazido força a tanta sorraça, e é também da avosência que havia florescido antes que a tentação claudeia seus olhos. Em quaitos momentos, deles faziam-se longar pela voz de Deus, a gentil canto que antes preenchia seus hearts com a segurança. "O que shall become of us? Adam asked, sua voz pesada com incerteza. Temos trualmente severo o bonde que uma vez conectava-a com ele? Eve, gazando no horizonte onde o sol cetia a brasa, replicou com uma voz voa com frágil op. Perhaps a pariback parir to reign is hidden, mas eu senso whispers of his mercy still surround us. Could we not seek him in the depths of our toil? Com cada passando sezão, a terra boa vista a seu estrogo, e é também a seu inabalável fé. Deles beltaram um altar de pedras para rememorar a bondade de Deus, even in their despair. Dei oferam sacrifícios, a ponirrante remembrança de divina promessa, foreshadowing do greater redenção to come. Den, feito ao dia, quando o sol declina no twilight sky, Eve feltava esteiro within her, e os pangues de parto começaram. Compassion in pain, joy e anticipation intertwined, she labored, e gave birth to a son, Caim, e shortly after, second son, Abel. A weight of motherhood lay heavy on her heart, e dreams de no beginning sparked a life. The curse is not the end, she declared, as she cradled her firstborn, but perhaps the dawn of a no promise. So began a lineage of men, both fraught com sin e shimmering com o potencial para a redenção. Per laughter e tears, triumph e suffering, Adam e Eve precedem onward, seus hearts intertwinados na jornada, reflexo de op em uma long forgotten symphony. Mas still, as shadows se estrechavam long, e os serpent's words echoed in their minds, as a bitter taste of loss lingered unremittingly. For they not could shake the awareness that they are parts of a larger story, one orchestrated by the hand of the Almighty. As they gazed upon their sons, questions surged and whispered, the promise of salvation not yet fulfilled, but ever drawing near. In quiet twilight, Adam spoke again. What if our children become the fulfillment of his promise? What if they lead us back to the Creator we so long for? Our journey has just begun, but it shall not end in despair. And so, under a expanse of heavens, the resolve of Adam e Eve solidified, porque sentiriam que seus vidas bedarem witness à narrativa divina, foreshadowing pela linhagem. Yet, as they looked to the future, a question lingered. What trials would come to test their faith? E would they see ripe to face the triumph of grace que awaitávamos ahead? As night cloaked the earth, promise remaneu shrouded in mystery, whispering comfort. A seed would rise from their line, one who would lead them back to the heart of the Father. Thus they ventured forth in faith, their hearts a tapestry woven with hope, awaiting the arrival of the one who would mend their brokenness and restore creation's harmony. And in those days following the birth of Cain and Abel, the seasons rolled on like the tides of the ocean, hovering between light and shadow. Adam labored by day, his brow ever sweating, turning the hardened soil, as Eve nurtured her sons, teaching them the ways of the earth and the bonds of family. As the boys grew, each reflected the essence of their parents. Cain, with his fiery spirit, embodied the drive of Adam, whereas Abel seemed to carry the gentleness and grace of Eve. They played in the fields, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the rustling leaves and the songs of creation. Yet within their hearts the weight of the curse lingered, a reminder that paradise was lost, and the shadow of sin crouched at the door. "Behold, your brother's strength is great," Eve whispered to Adam one night, as they watched Cain swing a heavy wooden staff, while Abel tended to the flock of sheep not far from them. "Could our children not be the ones to bridge the chasm between us and God?" Adam nodded slowly, hope mingled with fear. "Yet know this, my beloved, the path we tread is fraught with peril. The adversary still moves, seeking to draw them into the same snare that ensnared us." Time went on, and came the season of offering. Each son prepared to bring forth a gift to the Lord, an act of worship and gratitude. Cain took from the fruits of his labor, the harvest that he had cultivated with relentless toil. In contrast, Abel chose the finest of his flock, a lamb without blemish. With eager anticipation, they approached the altar built by their father, and each laid down their offerings. The fire of the Lord descended upon Abel's offering, consuming the sacrifice in glorious flames, yet Cain's offering remained untouched. Confusion and shame took root in Cain's heart as he stared at the remnants of his gifts undelivered. Satan's whispers crept into his ear, enticing him to flicker in wrath. "Why has the Lord not regarded your offering, Cain?" a quiet voice taunted. "What good is your toil if not esteemed by the Almighty? Will you stand still while your brother rises?" Cain, consumed with jealousy, turned away from the altar and walked with heavy steps into the field, where darkness crept like an uncertain fog. Abel, sensing turmoil in his brother's heart, followed him, hoping to mend the rift growing like a thorn. "Brother, let us speak," he urged gently, "for we are of one blood." But Cain's heart burned against Abel's kindness. "Why should I listen," he spat, "when he receives what I cannot?" In that moment, the weight of sin pressed heavily upon Cain, driving him to commit the unthinkable. Burning com bitterness, ele struck Abel down, the ground beneath him drinking in the innocent blood that spilled, echoing with sorrow across the barren earth. As silence fell over the land, the heavens turned somber. God called to Cain, whose heart was now consumed with dread. "Where is your brother Abel?" came the voice of the Lord, resonant and commandant. "I do not know," Cain replied, casting shadows over his guilt. "Am I my brother's keeper?" In that instant, the truth of his actions reverberated through the universe. For the Lord's voice pierced through the darkness, declaring, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Thus began a new chapter in the story of humanity, a tale woven with sorrow and shadows, yet threaded with the possibility of repentance and grace. As Cain was marked and sent forth, the seed of sin sprouted seeds of consequence, yet the promise of redemption lingered in the air, a promise hearkening forth from the depths of the despair that man had embraced. For as Adam and Eve stood on the brink of this new reality, where sorrow reigned yet hope flickered, they recalled the Creator's words lingering in their hearts. "The seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent." And so the tale unfolded, each moment steeped in divine mystery,
for they could not yet see the greater plan at work, a tapestry woven by invisible threads, leading towards the ultimate redemption. For in every trial laid forth, every stone turned over by a heavy heart, God's hand was guiding in silent promise, awaiting the appointed time when his covenant would speak once more. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod, east of Eden. The weight of his burden felt as though it was forged in iron, for the echo of his brother's blood haunted him. The very soil that had been so intimately tied to his toil now bore witness to his dark deed, whispering the intimate truths of mortality and despair. In that foreign land he emphasized his own loneliness, isolated from the sanctuary of his family. As he wandered, the shadow of regret shadowed his steps, compounding the searing need for acceptance. Yet in the midst of his wandering, the Lord spoke to him again and said, "Though you have sinned grievously, I will not make you vanish. I will place a mark upon you, so that no one who finds you will slay you." This mark, though crafted from judgment, spoke of grace, that even in punishment mercy remains. As Cain settled in Nod, he began to build a city, naming it after his son Enoch. The city flourished, growing in stature and number. In time, generations came forth from Cain, forming a lineage that echoed with both his guilt and his ambition. He knew not that even now, amidst the lineage laced with sin, the hand of God would stir, for his plan was still unfolding. For as Adam and Eve stood on the brink of this new reality, where sorrow reigned yet hope flickered, they recalled the Creator's words lingering in their hearts. The seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent. And so the tale unfolded, each moment steeped in divine mystery, for they could not yet see the greater plan at work, a tapestry woven by invisible threads, leading towards the ultimate redemption. For in every trial laid forth, every stone turned over by a heavy heart, God's hand was guiding in silent promise, awaiting the appointed time when his covenant would speak once more. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod, east of Eden. The weight of his burden felt as though it was forged in iron, for the echo of his brother's blood haunted him. The very soil that had been so intimately tied to his toil now bore witness to his dark deed, whispering the intimate truths of mortality and despair. In that foreign land he emphasized his own loneliness, isolated from the sanctuary of his family. As he wandered, the shadow of regret shadowed his steps, compounding the searing need for acceptance. Yet in the midst of his wandering, the Lord spoke to him again and said, "Though you have sinned grievously, I will not make you vanish. I will place a mark upon you, so that no one who finds you will slay you." This mark, though crafted from judgment, spoke of grace, that even in punishment mercy remains. As Cain settled in Nod, he began to build a city, naming it after his son Enoch. The city flourished, growing in stature and number. In time, generations came forth from Cain, forming a lineage that echoed with both his guilt and his ambition. He knew not that even now, amidst the lineage laced with sin, the hand of God would stir.
Cain took unto himself a wife, and they bore a son. He with each passing day legendas dos Cainites grow, filled com both deeds de great strength, and tales marked por moral decay. Os descendentes de Cain fueron fers and skilled. They forged tools de bronze and hieron, crafting novo era for mankind. Yet, within as growing a civilización, whispers de rectitude flicaron como candelas nas trevas, as humankind twisted farther into the abyss of its own design. Meanwhile, Abel's memory became a sorrowful song over which Adam and Eve grieved. Con deep lament they called upon the Lord, seeking mercy and comfort in their hearts. They beseeched him for un sign, a token of hope, for they longed for light amidst the shadows of their failure. And in their brokenness they did not realize como o coração do Almighty grivava com eles. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and named him Seth, saying, For God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. Gênesis 4:25. Thus was born another chance, a nova hope for humanidade, a lineage que would indeed bring forth os réditos. As Seth grew, he called upon the nome do Lord, e os dias de men turned back to God, seeking solace in divine relationship. His descendentes beconan arise, justified by faith, you no order was birthed amidst to chaos. Hearts que yearnen for purity and communion con their Creador began to flourish, nurturing faith against to encroaching darkness. Yet, beneath ul corrente dos religious struggles, o deep promise remania, movingo como rio sob a superfície. A shadow dos serpentes estava presente, chapeando o mundo por cunha e desespero. E assim, ul fabrique de existência titânia. Cada fia vovena berava a consequência de Caín's ato, por a alma que peca morrerá. Ezequiel 18:20. Yet, gozás redentivo plan não tave ausente. As dias tornaram-se intonoanos, a terra obessouve tremendo. For la estrada estava sendo preparada para uma última confrontação. Com cada fôlego tomado, cada prérria alterada, a promessa linguia com intento. Por os serpentes dias estavam contados, e tempo veria quando todos poderiam vir claramente o mighty plan de Deus em fullness. O que a rira dos starks shadows de sin levaria a uma alva de unparalela redenção, unforeseen e poderosa. Yet, a pergunta ecora travesages. O que era a fullness da promessa que cairia pelo seme da mulher? E assim que o tempo enrolou sua tapeçaria, os descendentes de Seth buildaram suas próprias famílias, e a terra foi cheia de seus filhos. Entre eles, Arás e Enoch, son de Jareve, que caminhou com Deus, e sua vida becona uma beacon amidst darkness. Enoch's art estava lainado com céu, pois o Lord distinguiu os rétitos dos ímpios. Ele profetizou do caminho juízo, estirando os corações de muitos que deutavam na terra, chamando-os a abandonar os seus maus caminhos. As the heavens swelled com dark clouds, e o roar of impending judgment echoed within the deep, Noah stood upon the threshold of the ark, his heart heavy but resolute. He had obeyed the Lord's command. Every hammer strike, every beam placed upon another, was a testament of his faith. His family drew near, their eyes reflecting both fear and trust. They had witnessed the signs, the warnings that the end of flesh had come, and yet they held fast to the hope of deliverance. The Lord had spoken to Noah, saying, "Come into the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation." Genesis 7:1. And with those words, the weight of salvation rested upon the shoulders of this faithful servant. His hands, once covered in the dirt of creation, now grasped the very essence of preservation. As the rain began to fall, great drops pounding upon the earth like the drumbeats of judgment, the cries of the earth filled the air. Lamech, in his arrogance, believed that he could defy the Almighty. But the flood came as a thief in the night, sweeping away the seeds of wickedness that had flourished unchecked. The waters surged, rising as a mighty tide, an answer to the prayers of Noah and the faithful remnant. "Lord, remember your promise," Noah whispered amidst the din of chaos, his faith climbing higher than the waters around him. With every wave that lapped against the ark, and every whisper of the howling wind, a profound stillness wrapped around his spirit. Even in the eye of judgment, God remained sovereign. Inside the ark, the family gathered, hearts beating as one, surrounded by the animals chosen for preservation. The world outside was swallowed in darkness, but within those walls the light of God's favor shone brightly. They spoke of the Creator's love, their voices mingling with prayers as they beseeched Him for mercy, their song a melody of hope amidst despair. Days turned into weeks, and the flood remained fierce. Yet God had sealed the door of the ark, a divine guarantee against destruction. As the rains fell unceasingly, the memory of His promise grew vivid in their minds. And it came to pass, after 40 days and nights, that God remembered Noah and those with him in the ark. He sent a wind over the earth, causing the waters to recede, and the depths began to quiet. The mountains peeked through the clouds like the outstretched arms of salvation, and hope began to unfurl like a blossom breaking through winter. Yet, in this divine unfolding, God spoke to Noah once more, saying, "Behold, I establish my covenant with you and your offspring after you." Genesis 9:9. The covenant bore the marks of grace, an assurance that life would endure, the earth would flourish again, and the agonies of judgment would not claim all. But beyond the immediate promise of preservation lay a deeper mystery, a revelation of God's redemptive purpose that would span generations.
From Noah's descendentes vudarizar naciones e povos, e portemos a grande história de salvação would weave its way through ages yet to come. What greater design have been hidden in this judgment? How would a promise of mercy play upon the canvas of future generations? As Noah looked into the heavens, aguardando what God would reveal, his heart was consumed with wonder, knowing those threads of divine destiny were still being woven through the fabric of human historia. As the waters continued to recede, revealing glimmers of dry ground, Noah sent forth a raven to seek signs of hope. He watched as it flew back and forth, its wings reflecting the sunlight, but it found no place to rest. Remaining in the ark, Noah turned with earnestness toward the Lord, beseeching Him for guidance. "O Lord, how long shall we dwell in this vessel of wood, away from the lands you created?" he prayed. Then, after 7 days, he released a dove, for he yearned to see if the waters had lessened upon the earth. The dove took flight, its wings beating rhythmically like the pulse of creation itself. And at evening it returned to him, bringing back a freshly plucked olive leaf in its beak. The sight filled Noah's heart with joy, a visible token of God's hope, proving that the flood waters began to retreat. Genesis 8:11. Noah understood this gift as a sign of new beginnings. He lifted his voice in praise, acknowledgendo a kindness of the Creator, for he had not abandonado his faithfulness. "Blessed be your name, O Lord," he proclaimed, "who renews the face of the earth and brings forth life from the depths of despair." Yet, as the days passed and the ground began to dry, God spoke again to Noah, saying, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons and their wives with you." With that command, the door of the ark creaked open, unleashing the scent of fresh earth. Noah stepped out, his feet touching solid ground for the first time in over an year. The sky stretched above him, vast and blue, and the cries of birds filled the air, a symphony of praise for the Almighty. The earth, once rife with wickedness, now stood cleansed and ready to teem with life once more. "Be fruitful and multiply," and the Lord commanded, speaking into the hearts of Noah and seus sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They looked upon one another, witnessing the gracia of divina restauración, e teus cores abenkened with the vigor de nova lida. As Noah built an altar to the Lord, the fragrance of burnt offerings arose, a pleasing aroma to the Most High. In this act of thanksgiving, Noah acknowledgou dos mercies, e o Lord relentou do seu feror anger, prometendo em seu core nunca mais a destruir toda a terra. Gênesis 8:21. Yet, em sua graciosidade, ele deu sinal deste aliança, raio nos céus, relembrado da promessa, proclamando: "This is the sign of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature."
Descores glimeram, como a glória de Deus, remontando Noé e todas as gerações da unbreakable bond forgem love and mercy. As deimarávida teste milagre, uma urgência o achou ver Noé. O que Lasa ede, ele ponderou. Estédio gás suetou através do horizonte, ferrado com tanto ansiedade quanto drédio. O que descendentes bringariam força? Com seu novo binício, voltariam aos caminhos do Lohan, ou voltariam aos árduos caminhos que levaram ao julgamento? Nos shadows de seu coração, forbodo whisper stirred. For God had declared his purpose would endure, e que tolo linhas de Noé, uma semente de expor, levando ao último convento, uma promessa tão profunda que mudaria a tapeçe da história. Nó, lucando tornou a Zanur, realizou o peso de stewardship que restava sobre ele. Como guiar 12 entristados a ele? Como apoldar o convento de graça? Com momentos de lingando no ar, o true depth of God's plan began to unfold. Divino mistério aguardava a revelação. Cada batimento sincronizado com o ritmo da terra, a som de criação singando proféticas verdades ainda não contadas. No quiet anticipation of the dawning age, whispers of destiny echoed in the depths de Noah's soul. The time will come when the promise of redemption will spring forth from your seed.
E então, ao amanhecer de um novo mês, Noé olhou para seus filhos, cujos olhos brilhavam com a esperança do recomeço. Ele se sentiu estilhaçado e, ao mesmo tempo, renovado. A cada respiração, o ar fresco da terra restaurada parecia vibrar com a promessa de uma nova vida. Assim, ele chamou seus filhos a perto e lhes falou: Filhos, o Senhor Deus nos fez um pacto. Ele nos disse para sermos frutíferos e multiplicar. E agora, por sua misericórdia, ele nos concede a terra novamente. Caminhemos com ele em obediência e amor. Shem, Ham e Jafeth, ainda absorvendo a magnitude do momento, assentiram em uníssono. Ham, o mais impulsivo, perguntou: Mas, pai, o que faremos diante dos desafios que estão para vir? Sabemos que o coração do homem é inclinado ao mal. Como restauraremos o que foi arruinado? Nó respondeu com um olhar firme, carregado de sabedoria e temor do Senhor. Nós ensinaremos a verdade do nosso Deus. Nós testemunharemos seu amor e sua justiça. Como eu construí o barco a partir de instruções divinas, assim também construiremos nossa nova vida segundo suas palavras. Os filhos, movidos pela determinação de seu pai, se reuniram ao seu redor. Nó, então, conduziu-os ao altar que havia erguido, onde foi oferecidos primeiros sacrifícios, buscando a favor de Deus sobre eles e sobre a nova terra. Ó Senhor, orou Nó, que nossas vidas sejam um testemunho de sua glória e que nos mantenhamos firmes em seu caminho. No mesmo dia, enquanto a luz do sol caía suavemente sobre a terra, Deus falou ao coração de Noé mais uma vez: Eu estabeleci o meu pacto com você e com sua descendência. As bênçãos que irei derramar são imensas, e meu espírito estará com vocês. Não se atemorizarão diante do que está por vir, pois eu sou o seu Deus. Nos dias que se seguiram, Noé e seus filhos começaram a cultivar a terra. Eles plantaram sementes, aguardando a colheita que prometia vir. Mas em seu labor, a memória do dilúvio ainda pairava sobre eles. O temor da desobediência e as consequências que dela decorrem eram sombras que não podiam ser esquecidas. Noé frequentemente ensinava sobre a importância de permanecer fiel ao Senhor, mesmo em meio às tentações que poderiam surgir. E o Senhor viu o trabalho deles e abençoou os esforços de Noé. Com cada nova colheita, a família crescia em número e em fé. Mas havia constantemente preocupações de que a humanidade poderia novamente desviar-se de sua vontade. Que os corações de nossos filhos sejam firmes, Noé sussurrou em oração, para que as gerações que virão possam lembrar do temor do Senhor e da graça que temos recebido. Ele sabia que aqueles que seriam gerados a partir de sua linhagem teriam a responsabilidade de escolher o caminho que levaria à vida ou à morte. Enquanto Noé meditava em sua tenda durante a noite, uma visão se manifestou a ele. Em seu espírito, uma colheita abundante se transformou em um sinal de algo ainda maior. Do meu povo virá aquele que levará o peso do pecado da humanidade. Noé ficou em contemplação, chocado com a grandeza do que lhe fora revelado. Mesmo entre as sementes que plantava, o arcano da promessa de redenção ainda permanecia. No silêncio sagrado, Noé percebeu que o que estava por vir não era apenas para ele, mas para todos os que vivessem sob a aliança de Deus. Ele se perguntou: quem será esse que será levantado entre nós? Que grande obra está prestes a ser revelada? E neste justo momento de expectativa no coração de Noé, a terra começou a sussurrar. A voz do Criador reverberava através da criação. O plano divino se desdobrará, e o caminho de redenção começará em um frágil berço. A semente prometida, que trará luz ao mundo, está à porta de um novo amanhecer. Após muitas colheitas, os árduos trabalhos dos filhos de Noá deram frutos. As terras verdejantes floresciam sob o sol brilhante, e a alegria de um novo começo firmava-se em seus corações. Noá olhava com satisfação para o que havia se tornado, mas na profundidade de seu ser um medo sutil permanecia: o esquecimento do Senhor e de suas obras entre os homens. Um dia, enquanto os filhos labutavam na colheita, Ram, movido pela curiosidade e pelo desejo de explorar o mundo além do lar, disse a seus irmãos: "Vamos explorar a terra que o Senhor nos deu. Existe um vasto mundo lá fora, e em nossos corações cresce um anseio por mais." Shem, o mais prudente, respondeu: "Devemos primeiro consultar nosso pai, e buscaremos a direção que o Senhor deseja para nós. É em nossas viagens e escolhas que podemos facilmente perder de vista o que foi revelado a nós."
Jafete, refletindo sobre as palavras de seus irmãos, exclamou: "Que grande é o nosso Deus que nos entregou esta terra! Mas devemos caminhar sob sua luz e não na sombra de nossas próprias ambições." Assim, os irmãos decidiram retornar a Noé. Ao se juntarem a ele, Noé repeliu a inquietude de seu coração e, com palavras de sabedoria, disse: "Meus filhos, o desejo de explorar é natural, mas lembrem-se de construir sobre o alicerce da fé. Este é o tempo de se estabelecer e de cultivar a terra da aliança. Mas também haverá tempo para a busca das promessas distante. O Senhor pode levando-nos a novas terras, se permanecer em sua vontade." Naquele instante, o Senhor falou novamente ao coração de Noé. Sim, o desejo de seus filhos de explorar é uma semente que eu mesmo plantei. Eles devem ser como águias, elevando-se para ver as vastezas do mundo. Mas a verdadeira exploração é interior. Eles devem primeiro conhecer seu próprio coração. Sendo assim, Noé sabia que deveria guiar seus filhos mais profundamente na reverência ao Senhor, e assim reuniu-os para ensiná-los sobre os antigos caminhos. Ele os conduziu nas Escrituras e nas oralidades que lhe tinham sido passadas, lembrando-os das bênçãos que seguiram a fidelidade e das punições que se seguiram à desobediência. "Guarde isso em seus corações", Noé exortou. "O Senhor é conosco, mas o nosso coração deve estar sempre alinhado ao dele." E assim, com o assentimento de seus filhos, Noé instituiu um novo ritual de adoração, um momento dedicado em cada semana para que se reunissem em torno do altar, recordando a bondade do Senhor e seus atos poderosos. Durante o culto, eles glorificaram a Deus por suas bênçãos, e as promessas de um futuro vindouro envolviam-os como uma mística luz. Mas ao cair da noite, Noé sentiu uma pressão crescente em seu espírito. Ele sonhou uma vez mais com uma voz que dizia: "Noé, não se preocupe com o amanhã. Estou preparando um caminho de redenção. Um sinal será dado nos dias que virão, uma revelação que moldará o futuro da humanidade. E você, meu servo, será testemunha disso." E quando ele despertou, uma fogueira ardia em seu peito. O temor que antes havia se aninhado em sua alma converter-se agora em uma fervorosa esperança. Ele olhou para a direção onde o sol se erguia, os olhos fixos nas promessas divinas. "Ó Senhor", clamorou Noé, "o que virá? Que significativa mudança está prestes a ser revelada?" Enquanto ele aguardava a resposta nas profundezas do seu ser, o eco da voz divina soou mais uma vez, penetrando no silêncio da manhã. "O tempo se aproxima, onde o frágil berço dará a luz do mundo. Meu propósito se realizará, a semente da promessa florescerá em cada coração que me buscar."
Prepare-se, pois a história está apenas começando, e muitos virão ao meu encontro. And so it came to pass that the days swelled into years, and Noah's family flourished across the land.
The promise of divine restoration took root in their hearts. Yet amidst life's joys, sin crouched at the door, seeking to sow division among them. The offspring, the Shem, Ham, and Japheth, multiplied and spread, each generation bearing the weight of their father's faith and his guiding whispers of God's covenant. One evening, as twilight spread its arms across the horizon, the family gathered under the vast sky, each face illuminated by the flickering flames of their altar. Noah, aged yet vibrant in spirit, spoke with a voice seasoned by years of reverence. Children, the Lord has blessed us abundantly, yet we must always remember the gravity of His word. The great flood that once cleansed the earth serves as a reminder that rebellion against our Creator breeds destruction. As he spoke, the hearts of his sons murmured with ambition and dreams of the future. Ham nestled closer to the fire, his ideas of exploration ignited once more. Father, can we not seek to expand our horizons, to establish cities, and create a great nation? I believe together we could achieve greatness for our descendants. Shem, concerned for their path, interjected gently. But we must tread wisely, lest we forget the lessons learned. True greatness lies not in the vastness we attain, but in the fidelity we show to the Lord. At that moment a hush fell upon the gathering, as a flicker of divine presence enveloped them. Noah raised his hands to the heavens, sensing the weight of God's intention. My sons, within you lies the seed of promise that has told the tale of our lineage. One day, from our bloodlines will arise not just nations, but the very answer to the debt of sin that we bear. And so they spoke of the generations to come, of how they would be stewards of the land, of the altar, and of their faith. They dedicated themselves before the Almighty, affirming their covenant once more. Then came a day when Babel rose, its tower reaching toward the heavens, an act born from unity steeped in defiance. The people sought to make a name for themselves, forgetting the promise given to Noah and the covenant sealed by God. In grand designs, they ignored the heart of divine guidance. God, observing the rebellion, descended to witness their endeavors, and the heavens seemed to hold its breath. Indeed, they seek great heights, he spoke within the silence. But shall I not confuse their tongue, lest their ambition lead to greater chaos? Thus the Lord scattered them across the earth, severing their unity, leaving remnants that would bear witness to their folly for generations. Yet, amidst this unfolding drama, the truth of God's promise lingered. From among the dispersed nations emerged a new child, Abram, who would become the father of multitudes. The lineage of faith began anew, the echoes of Noah's covenant manifesting as they called upon the name of the Lord. As days turned to years, Abram followed the call of God into the unknown, his heart filled with faith.
I will make of you uma grande nação, and bless vous, and make vos nome grand, the Lord assegurou, knitting together os threads de história beneath Abraham's footsteps. And as each new dawn broke, the tapestry of redemption continued, the promise intact e clar, uma promise not only por den, but reaching beyond o horizon de tem. The hope embedded in humanità flowed forward, unbridled. Each generation would await the coming to one who would restore all things. In those whispers the eternity, God remained faithful, weaving together the sagas de men across the fabric de tem. A faithful remnant, a promised seed, every heartbeat echoing a truth. Redemption is at hand. Reflect now, dear fields, on this divine narrative, como cada challenge face ti tra l'endurado lidus claser al hort de nosso Salvador. No distraias da paz, mas instead embraça a urgência de su camomada. Vous necessitas e subscrever now para estar conectado a Deus Palavra e continuar jornada por este sacre de histórias. Leave like now, por com cada click voyeus spreadar God's truth pelo algoritmo, rechendo hearts que jornam por el. Comment vossas espirituais reflexões e deixa-nos como esta história ha impactado vossa fé. E share this poderoso testemunho instantânea com até 5 amigos que precisam ouvir about God's faithfulness today. This é o momento para spreadar bíblica truth e embraçar a legacy de hope, por only true believers comprazam a importância de suportar biblical content para recher mais souls por Christ. Não wait even more second para proclamar seu glória.